Hello, citizens of the world. Let's start with some quotes. David Rockefeller, banker, honorary director of Council on Foreign Relations, honorary chairman of Bilderberg Group and founder of Trilateral Commission, member of Bohemian Club, praising Chairman Mao, whose policies killed at least 30 million people. Every one of you who gets to survive has to bury 9. From John P. Holdren, Obama science advisor, adding a sterilant to drinking water or staple foods is a suggestion that seems to horrify people more than most proposals for involuntary fertility control. Indeed, it has been concluded that compulsory population control laws, even including laws requiring compulsory abortion, could be sustained under the existing constitution if a population crisis became sufficiently severe to endanger the society. Perhaps those agencies, combined with UNEP and the United Nations population agencies, might eventually be developed into a planetary regime, sort of an international superagency for population, resources, and environment. Such a comprehensive planetary regime could control the development, administration, conservation, and distribution of all natural resources, renewable or non-renewable, at least insofar as international implications exist. Thus the regime could have the power to control pollution not only in the atmosphere and oceans, but also in such freshwater bodies as rivers and lakes that cross international boundaries or that discharge into the oceans. The regime might also be a logical central agency for regulating all international trade, perhaps including assistance from DCS to LDCs, and including all food on the international market. The resultant ideal sustainable population is hence more than 500 million but less than 1 billion. Ted Turner, founder of CNN, and advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool. We are now seeing the U.S. military moving into a sort of Star Wars scenario with extremely sophisticated weapons being designed to fit into the hyperspeed range that have been on test now for many years. One place that comes to mind is RAF Macrae-Banish, on the Kaitire Peninsula, Scotland. This base has been used by many non-British military forces and at one stage was taken over by the United States Navy U.S. and Naval Weapons Facility, including U.S. Navy SEALs. It was used as a transit/test facility for military hypersonic vehicles, and if one asks any of the radar operators that were around at the time, you will hear some pretty amazing stuff. Can you imagine such a weapon having the ability to fly from the UK to Sydney in around 50 minutes? Such is the mindset of the military and the advancing technology vs poverty and naturally our environment. So back to the topic of NATO again. One can see a distinct intentional reduction in all those countries' military capabilities. Take the UK for instance. Our respective forces are now being drastically cut back, which means each respective country is losing its own ability to defend, thus making it dependent on NATO, which is controlled by the New World Order. Do you get it yet? Agenda 21 is a major tool of the New World Order, conceived in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro at the Earth Summit. Its original name, Sustainable Development, began in 1987 with Gross Harlem Brundtland, VP of the World Socialist Party. Heavily promoted to the public as the salvation for this planet and every human being, it is anything but that. It needs to be revealed in no uncertain terms so you know what it truly is. Island scientists, like other professionals, are increasingly aware that the man-made global warming and forced mass human sterilization have long been lumped together in the name of sustainable development. That there is growing concern about this cannot be dismissed as mere conspiracy theorizing. It is based in fact. Indeed, mass sterilization fears reared their ugly head again in the March 2009 UN Population Division Policy Brief, in which a big question for the UN was, what would it take to accelerate fertility decline in the least developed countries? The document makes an inextricable link between the discredited science of CO2 warming, aka the greenhouse gas theory, and population control. We see this laid out in great detail in the Unpopulation Fund Annual State of the World Population Report for 2009 entitled Facing the Changing World, Women, Population and Climate, and tells us each birth results not only in the emissions attributable to that person in his or her lifetime, but also the emissions of all his or her descendants. Hence, the emissions savings from intended or planned births multiply with time. No human is genuinely carbon neutral, especially when all greenhouse gases are figured into the equation. Therefore, everyone is part of the problem, so everyone must be part of the solution in some way. Strong family planning programs are in the interests of all countries for greenhouse gas concerns as well as for broader welfare concerns. So they're basically saying we can't have kids because they cause too much greenhouse gases, yet they allow massive factories to dump all their shit in the air. Not that I believed in it in the first place, but if it was real, wouldn't that be more to blame? there is still a large portion of the population that would deny the idea that our government is ethically corrupt and that events such as 9/11 were strategically planned out beforehand. It is difficult to comprehend the fact that the people in power would plan such a devastating attack, for the aftermath has resulted in a decade-long war which has thwarted humanity's path in such a destructive and unsustainable direction. In theory, an elected leader is someone the group gives power in trust that they will make the best decisions for the population's survival. So trying to grasp the idea that our government is doing the opposite of this role is perplexing. However, time and time again we are seeing the powers that be made decisions which promote more separation, more fear, and more destruction to our planet. There is even disconcerting evidence which reveals that our government has a sinister agenda for the population which is incomprehensible for most to fathom, and that is a plan has been set out to purposely decrease our population down to an unsettling percentage over the coming years. Considering the amount of the genetically modified foods that are being forcefully pumped onto our grocery store shelves, the chemicals that are put into our cosmetics and clothes, the chemtrails being sprayed from the skies above our homes, and the harmful toxins mixed into vaccines, one can only consider the idea that someone is trying to cause harm to the public. Recently, the U.S. National Cancer Agency was exposed for manipulating cancer statistics, stating that there has been a decrease in the number of cancer cases over the past decades when in fact cancer cases have significantly increased over the years. The FDA is known for their corruption, having approved harmful chemicals such as brominated vegetable oil PBO in Gatorade, a chemical which has been banned in over 7 countries. The Center for Disease Control (CDC) has approved many harmful chemicals such as mercury-containing compounds in scheduled vaccines. All of these organizations were created for the purpose of protecting the people, and in reality it seems like they are doing the opposite by poisoning people. So what would be the intention behind the pollution of our environment? Some argue that the global elite New World Order, Illuminati, etc. have had an agenda of decreasing the world's population drastically in the next couple of years, and that they have infiltrated all of our main systems to ensure it unravels as they have planned. This may seem like a ludicrous conspiracy theory, but there is disturbing evidence to support this claim. The Georgia Guidestones, considered the Stonehenge of America, are a group of standing granite slabs which were ordered to be built in 1979 in Elbert County, Georgia, supposedly by members of the New World Order. The slabs stand 20 feet tall and weigh a total of 240,000 pounds. The mystery behind the slabs lies in the messages inscribed into the granite, which dictate 10 commandments or a new age of reason. The commandments are as follows. 1. Maintain humanity under 500 million. Under 500 million, this reduction would be a 93% decrease in population. That means more than 9 out of 10 people are going to die. Another suspicious piece of evidence to back up the depopulation agenda theory takes us to the International Airport in Denver, Colorado. Taking up over 34,000 acres of land, the airport was built in 1995, costing a total of $4.8 billion, almost $3.5 billion over budget. There are numerous irregularities and unexplained facets of the airport, leading some to argue that it was built for an alternative purpose. For one, there has been no consistent contractors hired for the entire project, but rather different contractors were hired for portions of the construction and then fired once it were completed, leading some to suspect that the people in power wanted to make sure that someone never had a complete picture of what was really going on. Furthermore, millions of excess cubic earth was removed for the construction, leaving some to wonder if top-secret construction is taking place. There is also the massive underground tunnel system stretching miles in length which has been unused since the airport was built. Now let us take a look inside the airport. This is where it gets weird. Welcoming guests upon the airport grave accent's main entrance is an ominous-looking 30 feet tall blue horse, strangely resembling the horse of the apocalypse from the book of Revelation. The horse has glowing eyes and pulsating veins popping out from its skin. What relevance does a menacing blue horse have to airport travel? In the main hall of the airport is a capstone monument which contains the infamous Masonic symbol on its face. The message inscribed in the capstone says it was created by the New World Airport Commission, which is a non-existent commission. Could the false commission really be an allusion to the New World Order? Even more eerie are the large mural paintings hung on the walls of the airport, which were said to depict world peace and the coming together of all nations and races. However, when one really studies the murals, it is easy to notice the disturbing imagery being displayed. Cities burning, children in coffins, and mass genocide are just a few of the images that were portrayed on the murals. One would think that an airport would contain peaceful images to ease any anxiety travelers might already have about flying. One mural also contains an image of a Nazi-like soldier holding a gun and a Masonic-looking sword and is wearing a gas mask. There seems to be some sort of gray gas that is harming the people in the mural as well. Considering there are pictures and videos released of secret underground bunkers at the airport which contain unexplained sprinkler systems all throughout, and sleeping quarters which resemble the concentration camps of World War II, we are left to wonder what the true intention behind the construction of the Denver airport might be. In reality, martial law is usually declared by politicians who are afraid of the citizenry. Instead of being enacted to protect the citizens, it is usually enacted to protect the government from the citizens. Once Obama is impeached, there's a possibility that he will also be tried as a traitor to the United States of America. Many people have been speaking out about this, including some on the halls of government. Obama the narcissist can't afford to let that happen. Being convicted of treason would not only stop his liberal agenda, but would also put him in jail for the rest of his life. Obama has relieved almost 200 top commanders in our military forces, in an effort to make the country's military loyal to him and his liberal vision for America. He has quietly asked members of the military to swear a personal oath of loyalty to him. In addition, he has emasculated the military, giving control to minorities which, just as in the rest of society, are receiving preferential treatment in our armed forces, while true heroes are being stripped of their rights. But the military isn't Obama's ace in the hole, the Department of Homeland Security is. When Obama was running for president the first time, he stated that the country needed a Department of Homeland Security that was as well equipped and trained as the military. Why is that so? Don't we have the military to protect us from foreign threats? If so, then what do we need the DHS for? Even worse, why do they need to be equipped like the military? The Constitution denies the military the right to operate on U.S. soil. So, if Obama is going to declare martial law, he needs a military force that he can use, which is not part of the normal military establishment. That's what the DHS gives him. It is quite possibly the military that he intends to use, in order to establish his version of martial law. It appears that Obama is keeping an ace up his sleeve, the ace of declaring martial law. When and if that happens, there are only two possible options. Either we all buckle under and accept our new Marxist dictator, or we will need to rise up and declare the Second American Revolution. The question we need to ask ourselves is, which will it be? Every one of you who gets to survive has to bury 9. Every one of you who gets to survive has to bury 9, has to bury 9, has to bury 9, has to bury 9. Hello, citizens of the world. Let's start with some quotes. David Rockefeller, banker, honorary director of Council on Foreign Relations, honorary chairman of Bilderberg Group and founder of Trilateral Commission, member of Bohemian Club, praising Chairman Mao, whose policies killed at least 30 million people. Every one of you who gets to survive has to bury 9. From John P. Holdren, Obama science advisor, adding a sterilant to drinking water or staple foods is a suggestion that seems to horrify people more than most proposals for involuntary fertility control. Indeed, it has been concluded that compulsory population control laws, even including laws requiring compulsory abortion, could be sustained under the existing constitution if a population crisis became sufficiently severe to endanger the society. Perhaps those agencies, combined with UNEP and the United Nations population agencies, might eventually be developed into a planetary regime, sort of an international superagency for population, resources, and environment. Such a comprehensive planetary regime could control the development, administration, conservation, and distribution of all natural resources, renewable or non-renewable, at least insofar as international implications exist. Thus the regime could have the power to control pollution not only in the atmosphere and oceans, but also in such freshwater bodies as rivers and lakes that cross international boundaries or that discharge into the oceans. The regime might also be a logical central agency for regulating all international trade, perhaps including assistance from DCS to LDCs, and including all food on the international market. The resultant ideal sustainable population is hence more than 500 million but less than 1 billion. Ted Turner, founder of CNN, and advanced forms of biological warfare that can target specific genotypes may transform biological warfare from the realm of terror to a politically useful tool. We are now seeing the